Few armies in Europe remain as notable as the Prussian army. Once a nation which held a tightened grip over the Germanic stage, the Napoleonic period saw a rapid decline in both efficiency and majesty on the world stage. Today we'll be analysing the effectiveness, the campaigns, and unique details of the Prussian army. The first significant factor in the lax state of the army was the reigning monarch, Frederick William II, who was descended from Frederick the Great Prussian military commander, and he saw little need for armed forces to be improved and had pacifist tendencies. The Prussian army was ill-equipped to fight against the revolutionary forces and withdrew from the first disastrous coalition of Europe in 1795, handing over the Rhineland territories to France. After the death of Frederick William II, the state was both severely bankrupt and military forces outdated. Now, after the coronation of Frederick William III, because apparently there was some sort of name shortage in Prussia, the Prussians joined the Fourth Coalition and once again suffered major defeats at Saalfeld, Jena and Auerstedt in 1806. While the Prussians did have competent commanders such as Leostock in Eylau, Gneisenau in Kolberg, and Blücher at Lübeck, this was not enough to overpower the French. There was a need for reform, and thus military council was created in order to both modernise the Prussian state, but to install a sense of militarism within the Prussian populace to increase the size and effectiveness of the army. A man named Gerhard Schornhorst began to reform the military. He led military organisation committee, which included Gneisenau, Grollmann, Boyen, and civilians such as Stein and Kühnen. Out of the general staff, only 2 full generals remained by the Sixth Coalition, and the officer ranks were opened up to more than just the aristocracy to allow more competent, less entitled individuals to be commissioned. Now, this was a big problem in the British army. The Russian army, you had aristocrats taking high, military positions with literally no clue how to lead any soldiers. The levée en masse, a kind of military conscription practiced by France, was something Scharnhorst endorsed. He developed the Klumper system, which allowed companies to train up to 60 more individuals each year by replacing 3 to 5 men on a monthly basis. The army received a greater reserve of 30,000 to 150,000 additional troops because to this strategy. I have taken this next structure from the, later Prussian army, roughly 1812, 1813 onwards, roughly around the Waterloo campaign. So the first army was the Prussian Regular Army, also known as the Army of the Lower Rhine. This army was composed entirely of Prussians from the provinces of Prussia, old and recently acquired. Field Marshal Gebhard Lebrecht von Blücher commanded his army, with General August Neidhard von Gneisenau as his chief of staff and second in command. Blücher's Prussian army was as follows: the 1st Corps under Graf von Zieten, 2nd Corps under Pirch I, 3rd Corps under Thielemann, and 4th Corps under Bülow. Secondly was the German Corps, or the North German Federal Army. Now, this was basically another Prussian army, but was made up of contingents of people from other states, such as the Electorate of Hessen, the Principality of Schaumburg-Lippe, the Grand Duchy of Mecklenburg-Schwerin, etc., etc. Basically, most states in the North German, federal area. Lastly was the Prussian Reserve. Now, besides the 4 army corps that were brought into Waterloo campaign listed above that Blücher took with him into the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Prussia also had a reserve army stationed at home in order to defend its borders. This consisted of the 5th Army Corps commanded by General Ludwig Yorck von Wartenburg, the 6th Army Corps commanded by General Bogislav Friedrich Emanuel von Tautzen, and the 7th Army, or the 7th Corps, or the Royal Guard, commanded by General Charles II, Grand Duchy, or Grand Duke of Mecklenburg-Strelitz. Just a quick side note, the ranks will be written in contemporary Prussian German rather than modern German, with the first rank being Generalfeldmarschall. Now, we're not a stranger to this one. The Generalfeldmarschall was considered to the equivalent of a field marshal and held supreme command over the army under the monarch in alignment with the war ministry and the general staff. The General der Infanterie. The general was the highest ranking officer, and it never officially had a prefix of a branch of service, and normally held command over a field army or an army corps. Generalleutnant, the general lieutenant or lieutenant general, was a division commander of the Prussian army, and in some cases may hold command over an army corps. The Generalmajor was a brigade or division commander of the Prussian army and was the lowest ranking of the general officers. The Oberst was the colonel in the senior staff officers. It held command normally over a regiment or held administrative position. The Oberstleutnant, the lieutenant colonel, was the second senior staff officer and it held command over a battalion or a regiment of soldiers. Much like its superior, it may also hold a staff position. The Major was the lowest staff officer. It held command over a battalion or a specialised company of soldiers. Much like its superior, it may also hold a staff position. That's a running theme with these. The captain was the highest company officer rank and held command over a company of soldiers or a detachment. The Premier Lieutenant or the Second Lieutenant, the lieutenant ranks, held position of command over platoons within a company of an army. They would be the lowest ranking officers, with the second being the first rank of commission. Now, a note with these, it's not Oberleutnant and Lieutenant or anything like that, like it would be in the modern German army. It's Premier, which is first, and second, obviously, mean. The Fahnenrich, unlike the ensign, was the flag bearer within a regiment, did not hold full responsibilities of that of a fully fledged officer, and could not really be characterised as one, so I've put them in the NCOs. The Feldwebel, or field usher, could be considered similar to that of a sergeant major, whose duties were to coordinate troop training and drilling. They would also act as the key line of communication between the officers and the NCOs below them. The sergeant was, well, a sergeant with similar duties to that of the rank above. It could be noted as something of a colour guard or a colour sergeant in the British Army. Sources seem to differ. The Unteroffizier was considered a sergeant, or at least a senior corporal within the NCOs of the army. Given the German structure has no direct translation to the other Western powers, its role was to command a small unit of soldiers in line with the lieutenant of a platoon. And Gefreiter, or corporal, was the second lowest ranking soldier in the Prussian army, usually meaning corporal or senior soldier, or however you want to translate it. And the Soldat was the rank equivalent to private, which would normally be Schutz. But yeah, this was the lowest ranking foot soldier, and would change obviously depending on your branch of service. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video as much as I enjoyed making it. I apologise, I really haven't been active on the channel in the last 2 months or so. I spent an entire month working without a break, about 30 days without a break. Well, literally without a day off. I've had personal issues to deal with, I've had sickness, I was on holiday for a while. It's been an absolute shit show, but I'm back. I'm going to try and make more videos. I do apologise. I think instead of rushing them out, I'm just going to probably take my time and maybe put one out try and do it every week, if not every 2 weeks, just to kind of, or maybe every 10 days, just to get myself into a sort of good rhythm of making them again and make them quality. But I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.